Hello.
Okay, we are
Episode
live.
7.
And just so everybody knows, this is brand new territory for James and I. We're in the same room. So we're just figuring out, we've got some technical stuff that's been going on here, but hopefully you have a video feed and there's no problems. James is just checking it right now. Looks like there's video feed.
Yeah, this is terrifying to me. I'm on edge. I'm more on
James
edge than the first episode.
James is shaking. This is, tell us how you feel, James.
This is live though. This is what happens, and I'm hoping that we can hear stuff. When I put this in, it's delayed.
Okay, what it means that we've got a feed. Maybe people can comment and let us know if you can hear us, because James, how are you doing there, bud?
I'm not good.
James, not good. So James came an hour ago, and we've been setting up. Usually this setup takes what, like 5 minutes?
It should be the exact same.
I sit down every time, and you sit down every time.
We got people chatting, so it seems
okay.
normal.
They can clearly hear us. Let us know. Okay, Elisa's on. Hi guys. Okay, please let us know.
I'm glad to be in the same room as John, but
let us know if you can hear us. But anyway, James gets here an hour ago, and we're all diligent about this. We get all set up and ready to go, and literally everything that could go wrong did go wrong in our setup here. We're actually set up the exact same way.
I don't want to talk about it anymore.
James is over it.
I'm pulling up the notes. Let's get on with the show today. We can't talk about technical stuff all day.
That's right. That's right.
Speaking of moving forward and being incredibly professional and prepared, we have new audio for listeners that maybe aren't able to drop in for the live stream. You can find it on Apple Podcasts. You can find it on Overcast if you like listening to it there. Can you hear me, Jeff?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You can also find it on Spotify, and it's under Off-Road with the Abrams. So that should be able to be searchable. And I figured out how to get all that stuff up on there myself.
You did. James did. I don't know if that was a subtle dig, because James really is the master behind all of this.
It's not. I'm just you're a busy man, so I'm trying my best just to pull it together. But I like that we're in the same room. We can bounce off each other
like that. This feels more
natural. I don't
have
to be waiting for the audio to come through on the computer. And
right.
So that was a big thing. Again, Overcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and it is supposed to go to a bunch of other ones, but those are just the main ones that I'm aware of. And so if for some reason you can't make it, we hope you can on Monday evenings. But if you can't, and if there's probably some other people that are connected on our social media that haven't been able to watch because of timing or whatever. And some with the England crew, if it's too late and they have to go to bed for some reason, they can listen to it the next day while they're cleaning their house.
Absolutely.
Which is what you do. That's exciting.
You do a lot of podcast listening when you clean.
That's why I was very adamant about trying to sort it out, because that's how I consume most of my podcasts. Is I put them in while I'm doing something else, and then try to do.
It is kind of like, if you think about that, there are a lot of people use cleaning as an escape from people talking to them. Yet now we somehow want to put people into our heads and have them talk to us the whole time that we're cleaning.
Yeah.
What is that? What is that about?
For me, it's like if I'm doing something that's pretty boring, it just helps to.
It is way less of a
chore.
Absolutely.
I just want to keep this up for reference to make sure that.
Okay, one more thing though.
I did chat coming in here. I'm glad that we're in the same room so I can talk over you and get you to stop speaking. And I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm saying hello to everybody. Everybody's saying hello. Dark Wolves is saying, "How are you guys? We're doing okay." As I started this, I'm a and on edge.
And James has a different color energy drink today. Which you clearly don't need.
An energy drink. You don't know by the color. It could be lemonade.
It could be good.
It's nice to see you guys in the same room together. Aliza. Akeem says, "Lol." I'm assuming about me. Speaking over John, maybe.
Okay, I did want to say one more thing though. Okay, about the technical thing, because
this high five. We won't touch. You don't touch, but
right. But on the technical front, James is getting a taste.
Okay, now I'm good.
Now you're good now. You're good.
And we got a Clooney.
Clooney's just joined us because James howled. Bye, Clooney. Bye, Thor. So one other thing that I want to say on the technical front. This is, James, you're living my nightmare. This is a recurring nightmare that I have. For anybody out there who's wondering the nightmares of musicians, at least me, I have a recurring nightmare that we are trying to set up for a show, and there are people in front of the stage waiting for the show to start.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a festival, sometimes it's like a concert hall. And we're trying to get a whole bunch of technical things in order. And every technical thing that can go wrong is going wrong. And the show is getting delayed starting by like half hour, 45 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. And the people are standing there or sitting there in the
and just
audience,
waiting.
And then people start to leave, and we actually never get the show before I wake up. And that is a recurring nightmare I have. We have had shows where there has been such technical craziness that it has caused me to have a lifelong problem with that. So I don't know if I need to see something.
That's basically what happened today. Like we got to 5:30 and I said, well, the video feed is not coming through, John. Like, and it's 5:30. Like,
we were testing
and then
it.
John went, well, try it.
Let's give her.
And we tried it, and it's working somehow.
Yeah,
so
we're here. That's awesome.
But that's a good segue into another development that I'm working on, which is getting different software so that we're not on Zoom anymore. Not that Zoom's a bad or a problem, but we just thought that it would make it a little cleaner and a little more pro, hopefully, and that we won't have any of these sort of technical.
And Zoom has been awesome. I know it's been awesome for a lot of people out there.
It's come out of nowhere, this thing.
I know, and it's so funny because it was a good get together, conferencing program before, but I mean, I think Zoom has just blown up.
Other companies probably just were dwarfing them in a lot of ways, and just so happened that it kind of became a trendy software to use during this stay-at-home period.
And there was
imagine having stocks.
There's another app. I think it's like a party app or whatever.
Yeah.
I was playing with a bunch of friends at the beginning of all this that apparently existed for like years or something like that, or a long time, let's say. And it's the one where maybe you guys can tell us in the comments. It's the one where you can play different games with a group of people on different screens. It's like video conferencing, but it's sort of all gamified. And
Pummel Party.
I don't know what it.
That's a game. That's the one where you play together. Or Mario Party.
No. This wasn't
Mario Olympics.
It wasn't like a Nintendo thing. It was like a totally like normal heads up. You could play heads up in it. Anyway,
heads up.
So we were doing this, and apparently this app has been out forever, and nobody
House Party. Madison says House Party.
Thank you.
She also said
nobody cared about House Party, and then COVID comes along, the thing blows up in popularity, even though it was out for a long time.
Okay. Also, we apologize for the audio. We tried to have both our mics. I have a mic.
And we're not.
I have a mic as well, the same one, but for some reason there was bad feedback and stuff. So
you know what though, James, this reminds me of for anybody who's wondering about some of the history of James and I playing. And I know we've talked about that quite a bit in the past. But we grew up playing bluegrass and gospel music with our family, old time music, and that was really where we started playing under the country music umbrella. And as a family, we would sing 4-part harmony around one big microphone like this one. And we'd have to learn. Had to learn really early on how to work in and out of the mic in order to be able to have the right dynamics for the show, right? So it's kind of like going back to old times. Mm-hmm. We got the old bus out front. We're using the old mic.
You got to pull that thing around, man. You've got it right in the middle of the road.
What, the bus?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I apologize to the folks here in Harrowsmith and the Portland County area, or the Portland Township area, I should say. I will move the bus. The bus is in front of the house right now, and it needs to go back in the driveway. We have been doing work on the garage and in the backyard, and I'm now ready to. And they've paved the road, and I had to wait till the road was dry.
Madison O says, "Have you been to the farm recently?" We went this week. There's actually a couple of birthdays in the family.
There was,
and we ended up going to the farm for our mom's birthday. And the day before that was our grandfather on our Abrams side, who used to play in the band. When John was talking about the single mic days, he played upright bass. So we had 3 generations on stage, and he had his birthday as well this week. We didn't get out to see him. That looks like a guy out there looking to see why the bus
He's definitely looking at the bus kind of suspiciously.
That is quite the machine.
He's very official. He's got it. Anybody with an orange and like orange vest with I worry.
What is that thing on the back?
He's not wearing a police officer's uniform. That's a good thing.
So
So
we went to the farm and we saw the pig. The pigs are getting a lot more friendly, and they're running around, and they've been a little more timid in the past when we gone there, but they are definitely getting comfortable.
We were feeding them apples.
You can almost touch them now, like pet them. So yeah, have we been to the farm recently? We did. We went this week, and everybody's doing well. I'm gonna probably ride Charlie, the new horse that's out there. I'm thinking about it.
Nice.
And channel some of that Red Dead Redemption.
Oh yes,
cowboy simulator.
yes, very much.
I'll get some video.
I would love to, but
we should do it together and do some video of us riding tandem.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'm allergic to horses.
Oh, true.
But I was more allergic to horses when I was a teenager, so I think I'm better now. And if I take the right medication before I do it, let's do it. And then I won't wipe my eyes.
Okay. Wolf says we can get into that story of where your eyes were closed shut the one time you were riding.
That was really rough. Do you want to talk
about
that?
He literally looked like Bonhomme from from the Quebec
the Quebec Winter Festival.
Winter Festival. It's like or the Marshmallow Man on Ghostbusters.
Yeah, like
he looked like
that. No, I actually did. So
Wolf says nice hat. Sorry, we'll get into that.
Okay, well.
Dark Wolf says nice hat, James. Madison O said house party. Everybody said house party. Clearly, everybody knows it, John, and you don't. You're a little out to lunch on that. Oh, that's cool, James. You ride. No.
Do you ride, James?
I have ridden before, but no, I wouldn't consider myself someone who rides horses.
I think the last time we rode horses.
I can do it though. We had a horse that I could ride bareback. Ooh. And it would allow you to do that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't in a cruel way. Like it allowed you to,
like he was trained for that.
Oh, it actually let the donkeys jump on its back, or not the donkeys. It let the goats. The goats would stand on the back of the horse, and the horse would just like chill there.
It was like a stack 'em animal, like
we have pictures.
Toy.
We will get that. I'm gonna write that down for next week.
Yeah.
Goat.
We had her name was Annie. She was a really sweet horse out of the farm. She's since passed away a few years ago. But she was quite a short, stocky horse actually, and very well built, and had kind of a perfect back for it. There was a little, he's still at the farm, Oreo, this little goat that's black and with little white spots. He would get up on the feed, the hay feed, and then jump up on Annie's back. And then one day, Oreo was on top of Annie, and then one of the roosters or a pigeon or something
on the goat?
Was on top of Oreo. It was like literally a stack 'em animal deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those stories where it's like, we need a picture where it didn't happen.
To prove that right. Yeah. It's like the singing frog.
Yeah. So
my eyes
before we continue on, tell the horse story.
Yeah. So the last time I rode a horse, at least I think it was the last time I rode a horse, it was at a really awesome resort called Chateau Montebello in Montebello, Quebec. We used to go there for a law conference actually that our dad participated in, the CCLA law conference, and James and I, we used to go to this law conference, and they always had these booths set up where they'd be giving out free swag, all the different, lawyers doing their legal stuff, right? Sometimes they're insurance people. They'd have chocolate bars, and they'd have like free like mouse pads and stuff, tchotchkes and things like that. And James and I used to strategize, and we'd scrounge. This is what we call scrounging. We'd actually run around, and we'd like take stuff from the tables, and we'd fill up bags with them and stuff. And we used to think we were super slick and that nobody could see us do it. But yeah, this is it. This is Chateau Montebello. So the area where we'd scrounge for free swag from these lawyers' booths was right in the middle, right there, actually at the top right, James. If you click on that picture, there's a picture of the fireplace.
So up here.
Yeah. So they were all around the edges on the different, because it's different. It's actually the largest log cabin in the world, and it's a log hotel. So it's really, really pretty spot. So we go do that. And then one year we went horseback riding as a family, and I had always been maybe slightly a little bit allergic, but I didn't think it was that bad.
Yeah.
Until we went riding, and it was like a 3-hour horseback ride. And of course, I started to get allergic in the first 20 minutes of this thing.
Look at this pool.
And if anybody has ever wondered, isn't that nice?
Yeah.
If anybody has ever wondered what happens when you go full allergy, I mean, you get a little allergic, and then you kind of and I'm talking about, the kind of allergy you get to cats or dogs or horses or whatever. Typically, you can kind of catch it with some sort of medication pretty quick. I was on that horse for 3 hours with nothing, and it got worse and worse and worse until my eyes were swollen shut. And thankfully there was a trail guide who was leading my horse because I couldn't lead my horse.
It got bad.
Yeah, it got really bad. But I made it out of that. Lesson learned. And so yeah, James, let's go riding.
That will be good for like some sort of video or something.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm trying to pull.
We can do 15 minutes. I think I can hang in there. For all the people out there who want to see us ride horses like
okay, what else we got going on here? We talked about the birthdays.
Well, speaking of the law conference, I went golfing this week.
Oh, right, with some law buddies,
some lawyer friends of mine, musicians, lawyer. There's a mix there? Is there a real mix there? Like I know musicians and hockey players are pals, but somehow we've got some lawyer friends, and obviously I'm in part-time law school and we're not on the road, so that certainly contributes to that. But growing up in a legal family, I think that's kind of natural. So they invited me to go play golf, and I play golf maybe once a year. Definitely out of my element, but I hold my own with golf.
Where's your golf shirt? Show people your golf shirt.
Okay, I'll go get my golf shirt. I hold my own with golf. I gotta say, it's I don't know if it's just because I did a lot of driving at the range when I was a kid, but James, tell them about how I play golf. Am I okay?
John wasn't very good for a long time, and then I went and we played with him. Like I played with him and my dad like maybe a year or two ago, and all of a sudden he could like hit the ball. And
not just hit them.
Yes. No, and you were straight and you're banging it. And
Happy Gilmore, man. That's just
no. It was one time. All of a sudden, you could play.
And this was the other day. And it's always the same thing. I'm really awesome up until about the sixth hole, and then I start overthinking a bit.
So weird.
And I cut it to the right, but I can definitely play golf, and not necessarily be certainly not the best, but not the worst.
Yeah.
It's nice to be the middle of the pack when you're going golfing once a year.
Good. Show them the shirt.
Okay. This is my shirt. I actually really like this because it looks like quite a little preppy golf shirt, right? But up close, I don't know if anybody can see this. Okay, it's got the pattern of wood cutting, chopping. It's got like Swiss Army knife and tent, and basically all the stuff that I do out here in Harrisburg as a country kid. But it's quite a.
You thought he was going to
try. But it's quite like it looks very Jimmy Buffett.
He was gonna try to wear it today, and then he switched up.
I switched. I just didn't think it was appropriate.
He didn't have
wearing a golf shirt.
He didn't have the courage to wear it.
No. I went back to my my wine colored long sleeve.
So you did okay with golfing, or
I actually did. I wasn't the worst, and I wasn't the best. I was the middle of the pack.
Well, it's nice that people are able to get out golfing now, and I also noticed that patios in Ontario, Canada are open, and it is packed. It was 3 solid days this weekend of people packed on
patios. It's
all
they can do, right? Because you can't go into a restaurant.
And that's right. And so, I mean, I don't know. I didn't even attempt to try to go to any of them yet because I didn't know if I'm pretty sure they were all like reservation based. I think.
Yeah.
I don't think you could show up.
It's wild. Yeah. Like you can't get a table for some places. You can't get a table for 2 months.
Yeah.
And
really?
No, it's wild. And there are places that haven't
tried.
There are places that haven't had patios before. Daft Brewery is a new brewery in Kingston. Yeah. They didn't have a patio. They just opened. I mean, talk about bad luck. These people just opened right before COVID hit. Yeah. And just barely got their legs under them. And then they are a great example. People that didn't have patios, well, they've poured concrete and people have patios now. I think every restaurant in town has a patio.
Yeah.
It's wild. And it's kind of nice to see. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't look too physically distanced, some of the places, yeah. But it's like, I mean, people are getting fresh air. I mean, it's hard to say no when it's nice.
People
weather.
are pumped to be back out there. And so at some point today, we're going to get into, last week we talked about a few ideas. I unfortunately wasn't able to get the old CD yet from that we were talking about last week with our voices that were so incredible.
Right.
I'll try to get that for next week. And I got to make sure that my DVD player can play a CD. Do you think that my DVD player can play a CD?
Usually. I think
right. It's like I bought an external one to show everybody the old home videos, but
yeah, I think you can.
We still haven't found those DVDs yet. Oh. Have you looked more?
No, I haven't gone to the storage locker. I gotta go to the storage locker
this week too.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna make sure we make a note of that. I will go to the storage locker and get those DVDs for anybody. And
just so that we can have more that we can show to people if we
I
find any funny
love doing
ones.
blasts from the past. That's a good time.
But what I did do a little research on was dead malls that we brought up last week.
Oh yeah,
we can do
we talked about that.
We can do a little deep dive on dead malls.
No, nice. I wish we had a panel that we deep dive on dead malls.
Well, maybe that's what we can figure out with this new streaming software.
As we get better, James and I feel like we're headed in the right direction here. We're already in the same room. We're moving towards more professional setup.
Certainly didn't feel like that when we started.
I forgot my token plant, but you would have been in front of it anyway.
That's true.
My snake plant.
Madison O says definitely get videos. I'm assuming that's of the goat and the horse. That's a cool shirt from Eliza. So she's
thanks
supporting
Eliza.
you.
I like it.
And Amy is here saying hello. If Amy wasn't here earlier, we mentioned, and we'll say it to anybody that's jumped in, or is jumping through halfway through the video after the fact. We now have audio versions of these podcasts, and we're going to put them up every week. I still have to backdate the first few episodes, but we have episode 6 on I believe it was episode 6.
Yeah,
the last week's episode up on Apple Podcasts, on Overcast, on Spotify, and I believe on a bunch of others if you listen to other ones. I can't remember the names of them, but so you can listen to audio podcasts if for some reason, for instance, like Amy, if it's too late for you, we're really thankful that you stay up so late to watch this live. But if for some reason it's too late on a Monday evening for you overseas, then you can listen to it the next day. Absolutely. Akeem says nice. I'm assuming for the audio versions, but let's see here. Oh, we should try to get to, before we forget, we've had a bunch of messages in the past month or so about there being some fake Instagram accounts.
Oh, yes. Let's talk about that.
So we've got some screenshots. There's either one individual or a couple that have made fake accounts with our names and personally our names, like James Abrams, John Abrams, and then they are messaging people to ask if there's one common question, which is like, are you my true fan or something?
Right. Yeah, and exactly.
That's certainly not us.
No.
We're so sorry that you're getting those questions, and we just we hope that you'll be able to, now after hearing this, that you'll know that that's not us personally messaging you. We don't typically just message random people.
Well, I mean, we will
instigate stuff. Typically we respond if someone asks us a question. So if you're getting a message,
the bottom line is,
question, it's not us.
If the account doesn't have the blue check mark, it's not
true.
us.
Sorry.
It's as simple as that. Yeah. It's just the Abrams Music Instagram has the blue check mark. If anybody reaches out to you, it's not a personal account of ours. We don't have personal accounts. We don't do any of that stuff. It's just James and I stick to our one Instagram account. So anything like that, just be cautious and actually report it. Report it directly into Instagram. The more people that report to Instagram, the quicker they'll be able to shut down those accounts for sure.
Yeah.
So just anybody out there who's experiencing that, we're sorry about that. I mean, it's I guess it's like a sign of the times, and B, maybe we're getting known enough that people are making fake accounts. Although I've seen people make fake accounts off of accounts that have 20 followers too. So I think it's just sort of one of those things where people are trying to take advantage of people's good graces, and I hate that. And so just please be wary out there, and certainly don't disclose any personal information. That's for sure. All right.
I think that's all we have to say on that. We also might be getting a little glimpse of some work that you've been doing in the past week, right, John?
Speaking of patios, I'm rebuilding our deck out back, and I've never done it before, but I feel like I'm doing pretty well. I'm actually really enjoying it.
I was impressed.
And there is a lot of sort of intuitive stuff, right? The work that I've done with Pop building guitars, it's the hyper accurate version of what I'm doing. So what I'm doing has a little bit more kind of wiggle room to play around. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can get pretty good, but it doesn't have to be exact like building an instrument. So I think that's what's kind of neat, is I'm actually taking a lot of the learning that I have from working with Pop on the guitars, and even just.
Do you have one of those?
one of Pop's guitars?
One of the ones you built.
Yeah, I think so. Somewhere here.
Pull it out. Show people.
Oh no, it's being worked on. Pop's working on it right now. He said.
You don't have any of them that they're built?
No, I've got him at Pop's right now. He's working on it.
Okay, well that would have been a good.
That would have been a good
segment.
one. But maybe we can talk about that next week.
Sure.
Should this week all be about what we're going to talk about next week?
Oh my gosh. Okay.
No, but I want to take everybody out to see it. So we'll kind of do that closer to the end of the segment because we want to. I want to show you what I've done and my
what do
process.
we got here?
It's been a lot of fun building it.
Akeem says, "Nice. I'll check it out." Amy says, Amy says, I reported to Instagram 3 days ago, but they said there was more important things to do, so they didn't take it down and said I should just block it.
Okay. Instagram said there are more important things to do than reporting.
Thanks, Insta.
Neat.
That's how they
never heard that before.
No, that must be how they feel about us. We're too insignificant or something.
Yeah,
we're too small change. Small.
They're not Beyonce, so we're not concerned.
Okay, but
dead malls. We were talking about.
Should we get to the deep dive dead malls? I mean, we got some videos.
Deep dive into dead malls.
We might as well watch them.
How long did it take you to come up with that segment title, James?
I was driving out here. I drove out here. I actually am liking the idea of coming out here. I think to do them because I can sit in the car and just kind of think about stuff on my drive out here.
Nice.
So I just was in the car and I don't know, just came to my mind. Well, it was probably earlier when I was doing the little prep work and stuff. I'm just a little concerned about the audio because if I reference it.
How are we doing the audio? How is the audio going?
I'm going to fight through some terrible feedback. And this is just awful. I'm the worst. You know when you get on the phone?
The mic's good.
Say when you get on, this is the thing I got to talk about. When you get on the phone and you're trying to have a serious conversation with someone, maybe you got amped up. You got amped up. It's like an important call. Say. It's an important call, John, and you need to deliver.
This has happened to me 100 times.
And you pick up the thing and you go, hello, and then it's just hello. Yeah, so I'm calling you. Yeah, I'm calling you about. It's just that's actually so accurate. And your mind, you're awful. Like, I'm supposed to go through this call, and it's a meeting or a business something.
You know what I do? I do the walkie-talkie. You know the walkie-talkie?
No.
Okay, so this is my walkie. This is my move, right? So, you're listening. Yeah. Well, yeah, I'll come back and talk to you about that later. And and well, sure. So it's kind of like
don't listen while you're talking.
Know exactly because you don't have to.
Genius.
You don't have to listen,
and that's why people come to listen every week. That's a genius idea.
Because of my ideas.
Because of that, John. Content like that.
There you go. Content like that's magic. That's why you watch the Abrams podcast.
But that's fantastic.
Yeah,
I have not known
do the walkie-talkie.
That's
and
awesome.
I didn't read that on BuzzFeed. I just came up with the walkie-talkie. There you go. But out of necessity because it's
sorry. I'm reading questions here. It says, "I like the Yeti" from Amy. I used one when I stream video games on Twitch. Amy, you stream video games on Twitch? Woo! I gotta watch that.
Yeah, that's awesome. James is big into Twitch streaming.
I am huge into it, and I've got some friends in here that sometimes play different games with me, different video games. I was going to get to a segment today, but again, I didn't pull up the videos because we had 40 minutes of worrying that this thing wouldn't go today.
Oh, James.
I can get back into it. It hasn't finished yet, this event.
Right.
But basically, because I've
is this the Fortnite event?
I've played Fortnite.
Yeah.
I enjoy Fortnite.
James okay, listen, James, I've played Fortnite. James is actually phenomenal at Fortnite. I've watched him. He's
there's some people in here.
Okay.
There's some people in here. Wolves is very good.
Yeah. No, I know.
Wolves is very good.
We've talked about Wolves.
I got another guy in here. It says from Curtis, but his name is Unity Snitch. Hey Tim, he's played with me before. He's good too. Yeah. So basically, what I'm saying is, Fortnite.
James is you're good at it. You are, and it's kind of interesting because people are connecting. People are connecting with each other.
Amy said, "I met my boyfriend via Twitch."
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
It's such a different world, but it's also kind of, if you think about that, especially during COVID.
Dauntless. I have not tried Dauntless, but I'll write it down. Dauntless.
All right, Amy. Very cool.
Love it. No, there's just an event today on Fortnite, and it's like changing the whole thing to like being underwater and stuff. It's a big,
Whoa.
but it just reminded me of when they switched. There was a big switch up in this online game where they basically made the game a black hole for like I can't remember how long it was, like a week at least or something, and that was before there was like this a new chapter. It was the first time they changed to a chapter, and there is some videos that I wanted to find. Today reminded me of when that happened, and when they did this chapter change, and there was this black hole. And
how do you play in a black hole?
They almost did it in a subtle way to make people, I think, like take a break from video games to just get outside. It might have been last summer or something, or I can't remember what it was for, but it just showed, well, it does show a little bit of how addicting some of these things can get, because
for sure
there was videos all over the place of like what parents had to deal with in terms of, because the game stopped, the whole thing stopped. So there was like days and days and days where kids would get on and it's like the game was gone.
What?
And they spent money on like different looks and all this stuff.
So that's what you mean by black hole. It's just like the game was off.
What they changed, it was like there was this big event, and then all of a sudden it was a black hole. And actually, Wolves, who's in here, we were on at the same time. We were so pumped. And then it's just like we thought that there was still something going to happen, and we stared at that black hole for like 2 hours. We're like, no, something's going to happen.
Wow.
Something's going to happen. And then that turned into like weeks, bro. It was like days.
That's crazy.
Days,
but that's kind of like,
if not a week.
For anybody I just watched the movie Ready Player One for the first time a couple weeks ago, and that was kind of the theme of that how people are, you can go too far. You can go too far with anything, right? Like, I mean, I you can go too far scrolling on Instagram. You can go too far reading the news. I mean, I go on, talk about black holes. I get into a black hole of reading news, and I'm just going back and forward on the same article feed, and I'm realizing I'm not accomplishing anything here. I've already read it all. But what am I looking for? Like, I'm just waiting for the trickle feed of new news. Yeah. And then you realize, okay, this is actually now beyond informational to something else. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So
anyways, I'll come back to that event thing and see what happens. There's a new season that's starting on Wednesday, and I think the whole thing is going to be underwater. So that's
wow.
I didn't know how much people really would be interested in me.
How are the mechanics are going to work for that?
But once Amy said that, she gave me a free pass to start referencing these random things.
Thanks, Amy.
And there was big news. It makes sense because there was big news this week. New generation for the PlayStation PS5. So
did it come out?
If there's any younger listeners in here, I'm sure they're probably excited about a new PS5. So video games as the topic makes sense this week.
Speaking of PlayStation, and it isn't irrelevant to our music.
Oh, you got to see. I got to show you.
It isn't irrelevant to our music because James and I had we've got the PlayStation on at the back of the tour bus.
Oh yeah,
right?
Yeah.
You got your PS4.
We talked about it before.
We also have the PS1, the first generation PlayStation at the back of the bus.
Yeah.
And the guys have an N64 setup as well.
Yeah.
And so we basically have these on repeat. And I know we talked about it in the context of that breakdown on the bus where you were keeping them playing. But in general, when we're driving across the United States or across Canada on tour and I'm up there driving the bus, I can just hear suddenly I'll be driving and then the guys in the back will go like,
okay, tell me what you think.
You'll just go nuts. You'll go like screaming and stuff like that because you just won a big NHL tournament or something.
Yeah. It is fun to bond with the guys playing that.
Whoa,
this is the new PS5.
Space.
A lot of people are making fun of the way it looks.
Well, what do you think? It's like a reverse Oreo.
People have done joke. There's so many memes on Twitter. It looks like a binder with like something stuck in the middle of the binder. Somebody was doing a jokes on
is it warped symmetrically?
I don't know what they were going for.
It's like a museum of modern art. That's what they're going for.
Yeah.
It looks like
like that building in Toronto. That museum?
Oh yeah.
Spaceship museum.
It looks like it's a book that's been buried for 10 years.
And it's
like
bent.
Yeah, bent and warped, and there's
okay. Let's get into the deep dive on Dead Malls. Okay.
Deep dive on Dead Malls. We've been teasing this.
This picture. Let's start maybe with these pictures from the New York Times. Let's share. Am I going to share this properly? Let's see. Look at that.
Whoa! Dead Malls. This is Dead Malls of America, I'm assuming.
This one's in Ohio.
Yeah.
So
I feel like we've been to that one.
This is a big part of our road experience, because malls, and we talked about this last week, malls and movie theater, the theme last week was very much something that is kind of a constant on the road. That you can pretty well find a movie theater in a lot of smaller towns. You can find a mall often. Sometimes the mall ends up, not being in that great of shape anymore.
A lot of malls.
I found some good videos that I've tried to figure out why this happens. And one of the videos gets a little political, but we can still watch it.
Okay, sure.
We take it with a grain of salt. Yep. But we can flip through some of these pictures. I thought these were pretty artistic.
Someone just lost a shoe.
And there's this guy. I don't know what he's doing in the photos, but that's just.
Look at this. Go back to that guy. Go back to that guy. Okay. He's just standing there wistfully thinking about the past. And the glory days of the mall. 1987 it was.
Remember
back when I was here.
Remember the Cinnabons. I can still smell them.
And the popcorn.
And the Colonel's stand.
The Colonel's stand. And the arcade that closed up 20 years ago.
Malls obviously huge in the 80s, right, John?
Yeah, I mean, mall culture was really, really strong in the 80s. And I think it really, it probably hit its, in the 80s and 90s really hit its peak, because I mean, that was really where teenagers would go to hang out. And of course, a lot of music was inspired by mall culture.
Whoa!
Mannequins. Some racy mannequins there.
Mannequins.
That's a nice mall. What's that? Is it closed?
Yeah, I don't
nice?
know. Let's exit out of this. Let's share some other photos.
Yeah.
Let's get an overview of some of the way that nature takes over buildings.
Whoa, this is great.
Look at this.
Right there.
Look at this.
America's abandoned malls. So the reason why we're talking about this is because James and I have toured in a lot of small towns in the United States, obviously lots of small towns in Canada as well. But particularly we find in smaller towns in the United States, there are a lot of situations where the mall has, just basically dried up and it's no longer there. And that's a perfect picture, because oftentimes the JCPenney is the last thing to survive.
Yeah.
Almost to a T, you could predict that if a mall was going to hang in there, it was because the JCPenney was busy. And James and I would actually shop at these JCPenney's. We try to support the local malls.
Yeah, we go to the mall, buy stuff.
Yeah, exactly. We try to do that as much as possible, because there's so much, I think, because of the way that James and I write songs. We like to write songs about nostalgia, about days gone past, about, obviously you hear that in songs like Good Old Days.
Well, you see the video that I pull up here, this guy talks about, I think, the allure of just thinking about these buildings, even when they're in disrepair like this, there is a nostalgia to it.
Absolutely.
We were thinking about how many, holiday seasons that people jammed into these places, and then all of a sudden,
the latest toy.
All of a sudden, it becomes, like nobody wants to step foot in there.
And usually, what's cool about them is that they're frozen in time, and it's in a certain decade, right? Like, I mean, you can pretty much go into a mall like this, and they might still have the same advertisements up from 1996, right? Yeah. So it's sort of quirky, but James and I want to share this today because a lot of our inspiration when we write songs come from really unexpected places. And one of them is us just walking through malls, and they're not necessarily always dead. Sometimes they're like, what would you call a dying or tired mall? Typically, in my opinion, a dying mall is when it's been taken over by pawn shops and dentists. Yeah. Pretty much, or insurance.
Basically, the big right? brands leave
big brands are gone.
There's a guy who explains it here, and I think we could watch some of them. This is a short little starting video that maybe we can watch. Hopefully I can hear this. And then we can dive into, this guy kind of takes it very seriously in the other one. Oh. And I think he's, what is he? He's got some degree and he takes it seriously.
A degree in dead malls. There's another.
Needed to find sanctuary in a place where I could gather my thoughts.
Whoa. This is the problem, John. You know me. I mess up the.
Oh yeah. James, you're doing it even in the new setup.
Well, John,
we gotta do we gotta mute the audio or something, right?
Hopefully this is done. Yeah, it's the audio of the stream, but I don't think I have the stream up on this computer.
It sounded good in my head, but that means nothing because I don't necessarily know how mine's set up. James is looking after us here.
Okay, let's start this video and I'll walk into the room and I'll listen on my phone just to make sure it's
all right. Let's go.
Okay.
improvising. That's what we do best.
To find sanctuary in a place where I could gather my thoughts.
Being at Old Orchard Mall kind of reminded me of being home in Africa, by the watering hole.
Since you guys got the tickets covered, we're going shopping.
It sounds fine, it's kind of loud.
Here we go. Many people are still nostalgic.
It's the end of Toys R Us.
So this guy does vlogs on them, and he does crazy views.
Between my channels, I have 500,000 subscribers. And it's pretty amazing the stories that you hear from people about their dead mall in their town. It's a real community of people who are just fascinated as much as I am. I kind of liken dead malls and people's sort of fascination with it now is sort of like the Titanic. I mean, the Titanic was this gorgeous ship, social gatherings,
Yeah, these old
and then it hit
television
iceberg
stuff.
and sunk to the bottom of the
There's more of it in
ocean.
the other
And it's kind of like the malls are now at the bottom of the ocean.
That was a cool analogy.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's just a little primer.
Nice.
Let's stop that.
I needed to find
Everything sounded fine. People let us know in the chat if for some reason it's not.
Yeah, we do love everybody's feedback, by the way, just to keep it coming.
So basically, if anybody wanted the definition of it, it's
Ghost mall.
a ghost mall, has high vacancy, low consumer traffic. Trying to find, let me see. Obviously, it happens because of socioeconomic decline.
Yeah, which is, I mean, it's we're definitely not celebrating this. This is definitely something. There's a wistful sort of, and I mean, nostalgia is kind of sad. I mean, a lot of the times there's a longing for the
but
past, right?
there's actually kind of an interesting thing that happens when the nature kind of retakes.
That's really cool.
That's kind of like there's a bit of we've built this big monstrosity of
right. That's true.
Of a consumption place, and then all of a sudden it gets taken back by nature.
It's like Joni Mitchell paved paradise. Put up a parking lot, right?
So yes, it's sad.
Nature wins.
I mean, this guy's going to explain how often there's kind of a political part of it, but I think we can still get something out of this. It was interesting to me. Let's see.
Politicians love things like malls, or even in a smaller town like a Walmart opening, because that's a big ribbon cutting.
Imagine your local mall today. How empty has it become? How many bored people are walking in discounted stores with only a few mall walkers left to visit them? How did it get this way?
On tour, walking bored.
To understand where dead malls come from, we have to go back to the end of World War II.
We're coming out of the war, which is this massive government-led effort.
James doing his research.
Nice, very nice. Did you just pause it?
Also, what you have going on after the war is the federal government's heavily subsidizing the suburbanization of America.
Hold on.
That's Nolan Gray.
So they're insuring
city
mortgages.
planner. He takes this seriously, so I'm going to try to
No,
make
James, stop laughing.
Only a few mall walkers left to visit them.
It's like how I
How
watch
did it get
movies with
this way?
Alex. Our poor fans are watching this really all chopped up. Here we go. Again.
To understand where dead malls come from, we have to go back to the end of World War II.
We're coming out of the war, which is this massive government-led effort. But also what you have going on after the war is the federal government's heavily subsidizing the suburbanization of America.
That's Nolan Gray.
So they're insuring mortgages for GIs, general population, so people are going out and buying these new suburban kind of Levittown homes, starting families. At the same time, there's this huge highway construction boom. So we're building highways to make it really easy to live way far out of cities.
Modern urban planners reimagined American life around a new suburban ideal. Single-family houses, driving individual cars, down the freeway, to parts of the city zoned for segregated uses. While the invention of the car would have spurred this change in American life regardless, the government reinforced that.
Regulation came in which essentially enforced this auto-oriented lifestyle. We're going to segregate uses. You're not going to have a corner grocery anymore. You're going to have a supermarket, which could be 5 to 10 miles across town. And there's going to be all the other shops that you want to go to over there. You're going to have parking associated with every new housing unit, with every new store, with every new office space, and everything's going to be kept separate, and you're going to drive from one place to another.
The American
cars
Mall
make sense.
exemplifies
Right,
this
of course,
plan.
they're almost
a
like
destination for car drivers and families who live in
giving you
homes
more
that are
reason to
spread out.
drive.
Yeah.
But concentrating retail
Whereas
wasn't
we
just a
have-
convenience
we're trying
for
to make
shoppers.
less reason to drive.
It helps local governments tax and regulate. And that demonstrates a political angle to many malls that often gets lost in its shiny newness.
Politicians love things like malls, or even in a smaller town like a Walmart opening, because that's a big ribbon cutting. And I can go to my constituents and say, hey, this big new store opened, you've been there, it smells good, it's shiny, it's clean, you can buy things you couldn't buy before. There's no equivalent with, hey, the Main Street that's been around for decades, it didn't close this year, so you're welcome, right? There's no equivalent. Malls are this big, obvious sign that a politician can say, hey, it did something for you.
This incentivizes cronyism, and it goes beyond commercial zoning. Many malls were created as a co-venture between local governments and private companies that crafted sweetheart deals, from tax abatements to eminent domain and infrastructure upgrades. This year, the $5 million American Dream Mall in New Jersey is set to open in
Look
October
at that.
after
We gotta go
over
there.
a decade of delays, budget
Whoa.
overruns,
Is this a
and
new mall?
negotiations.
Yeah.
And in Arlington, Virginia, the Boston Common Mall is getting redeveloped with $10 million in public infrastructure updates
So I think they
and
much rather just
$45
build a
million
new one
in
rather
tax
than
Rather
keep
than
those
fix
old
the old
ones.
one, right? Yeah. It's
This
like,
is a result of the corporate mall's strong lobbying arms that can convince governments that they'll bring in revenue,
also, they're sort of
jobs, and
centralizing
translate
these to
public
larger
support.
cities too, right?
And that's something that the Main Street
Whereas every
entrepreneurs
small
can't
town
do
had a big
for
mall.
benefits Main Street doesn't get to have. This isn't free market competition. This is cronyism. At the same time that governments are propping up malls, they're also propping up the mall's main competitors, online retail. Since 2012, Amazon alone has received $2.4 billion in tax subsidies, giving them an unfair advantage over their own malls, and certainly over small businesses and entrepreneurs on Main Street. Instead of allowing natural market competition to discover ways of creating wealth, these governments are attempting to prop up political favorites, many of which are competing against each other, which counteracts their subsidies in the first place. This is how political favoritism destroys wealth.
I haven't seen the end
But
of this, so we don't
with
know.
Main
where
Street
this is
eventually
okay,
going.
well, I
being
mean,
big
like,
box
it's also
stores
8
and
minutes, so we
gardens.
can.
Let's watch
It's
this.
a great question because we don't know. I mean, we don't know the counterfactual. Local governments plowed money. The traditional Main Street might have actually been displaced by new, big box retail. Or it might have,
models.
changed its ways and
the
gradually
50s,
over time
right?
responded to the
50s
changing
models
realities of
are
retail and survived.
those cars.
We see this brand new shiny mall, but what we don't see is that the Main Street that maybe the city government could have redone the sidewalks or planted trees.
That's true.
Maybe the city government could have given
We've
those
seen a
small
lot of
business owners
towns dry
tax
up
breaks that would
as
have
a
helped them
result of
survive.
stuff moving outside.
And so there's this scene, which is the brand new mall, but there's
That's
this
tough to
unseen,
watch.
which is all these foregone opportunities to cultivate the local entrepreneurs who already exist.
It's not just the opportunities on Main Street that we don't get to see. It's also the wildlife, swamps, forests, and marshes that were cleared out for the malls. And other times it was racially motivated. Under urban renewal, black communities and communities of color were often targets of property seizures, or they were split up by new highways, or declared blight so they could be demolished. It's a painful truth, but in so many cases, these city planners' urban ideals did not include non-white communities. And it's only made more painful now that those plans are beginning to fall apart. In the coming years, 1/3 of
this is
malls
what
are
I
projected to close.
also wanted to know.
Many retail jobs, oftentimes the biggest employers in most states, are coming to an end. We're looking at a lot of dead jobs and a lot of dead real estate. Why is that? The problem is the planning itself. In many malls, they face very stringent zoning, from how big their parking lots had to be, to the height of their building, to the goods and services that could be offered inside. Oftentimes, this forced the mall to only serve dry good retail, and that makes them particularly fragile because that's the exact kind of business that has shifted to e-commerce.
Well, the mall now
right.
is a giant box surrounded by a large surface lot that you drive to. You walk inside and it's climate controlled and it's only shops. What a mall is going to be increasingly in the future is a mixture of shops and apartments and office spaces. Might be things like, healthcare facilities, small breweries, things of this nature. You're already kind of seeing this in many parts of the country. So there's this new term which is called a lifestyle center, which is basically just that. It'll be a ground floor of retail.
It's true.
Open air.
Oh,
So
wow.
it'll have sidewalks and a little street growing through it. Almost like a sort of traditional downtown recreated. And then it'll have
just looks
shops
like a downtown.
apartments and offices also above.
These
Wait a minute.
lifestyle centers are becoming
That's
more
what
and
a
more
town
of a
is.
reality, with open-air spaces like the Grove in LA and urban markets like the
Chelsea.
Chelsea
Are
Market
you
in New
serious?
York.
What's different? What's
This
different
vibrant
about
mix
this
of
than a normal
entrepreneurs and
town?
new innovative retail
went to
is on
Chelsea
top of a
Market,
large
yeah.
return to
That's
Main
right.
Street,
Sorry, I must have
where
stopped.
breweries, restaurants, bars, and experientials have made a massive comeback.
I'm really optimistic in the near
Garfield and
term.
Emma Stone.
I think that many cities are looking at their tax rolls and they're saying the mall being closed can't be, the situation forever. We need to find some new way to use this land. You don't get sustainable economic development through these kinds of government-managed cronyism. Sustainable economic development has to build up over time. It has to be real growth. It has to be people doing things more productively, new ideas coming to the table. You can't subsidize your way into this sort of long-term prosperity.
A vibrant community comes from the desires and choices of the community. When planners decide to force those choices into zones, game the system for certain players, and fight change, it's not only unjust, it often ends in ruin for all of us.
Well, we definitely learned some stuff there.
Yeah, no, for sure. I didn't know about the history of malls, and that kind of makes sense. I mean, you've got
Obviously, yeah, it made sense with the sort of the car model and
Right.
getting, you know what I
right,
mean?
and some of these communities too. I mean, that's the other thing that's happened is that as a result of, and this is my layman understanding of it, but a lot of the business went to malls decades ago outside of the downtown core. The downtown core started to die. Businesses don't do so well in a small town. And then younger people go, my town isn't as vibrant, I'm going to move away. And then you have an older aging community and an aging population who after a while are going to the mall, but they're also not around anymore after certain generations, right? So then you start to see a gradual decline. And it's interesting to see how anytime let's put it this way, the towns that we've been to with a real focus on the downtown, you can tell the difference.
There's a
right?
vibrance. Yeah, there's
Absolutely. So anyway, this is sort of an homage to a lot of the wonderful small towns that we have performed in that have been so wonderfully welcoming to us, who have maybe struggled and gone through difficult, hard times. We as artists, we see that, and we love to try and incorporate those stories as much as we can into the songs we write. I mean, like Good Old Days sounds good to me. A bunch of these songs that we have written for the last couple of records really do. We don't specifically talk about malls. We don't specifically talk about any one town in particular. We try and pull those in. These are things that we've seen, right?
They're an element of small towns, and you and I are very much interested in small towns. And last week I remember us bringing up how you and I had both seen pictures before of these sort of dead malls, and they've always those pictures are, just intrinsically fascinating to look at the way that the earth comes back through that concrete and everything. And so I just really didn't even have an understanding of why certain malls, other than obviously people not shopping there anymore, there had to have been other elements that I wasn't necessarily aware of.
Why it's not a long-term strategy.
Yeah. And so I just, we said that we were going to bring the pictures up, and I thought, why don't I do some research and figure out why the heck that happens?
Yeah.
And why it's an old model, or why it can't be, why they can't be resurrected, or why it isn't, financially worth it for some of these people to gentrify some of those old malls. They obviously are either building new ones, or they're doing what he's saying in terms of building that new style of, what is it? Lifestyle centers, but it's basically like
looks like the main street of a downtown.
Yeah, with people living over the main street buildings.
Maybe in 50 years we'll have green spaces.
It just goes in cycles.
Maybe we have green spaces that have tech places where we can all be on our devices are at that time, and Amazon just drones everything to our house from the local warehouse.
Yeah, I mean, I got to tell you, I use Amazon.
Watch. I called it.
It's convenient.
Yeah.
It's convenient. Amy says shopping centers are still big in the UK. Look up Centre MK, which used to be my local one, Sheffield, where I was at university.
We've been to lots of really cool shopping centers in the UK.
Meadowhall Shopping Center is famous for Meadowhall Shopping Center. My
cool
local one is Marshall's Yard, Gainsborough, which used to be a huge attraction. tractor engine, and tractor factory. One says traction and one says tractor. So I'm assuming tractor engine,
cool.
and tractor factory.
Some of these,
We've been to them in the UK. We go everywhere.
But they're like really old buildings.
We've
Sometimes
been
in the
to
UK that have
some
been
smaller
converted.
malls in Israel when we've been there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
I remember getting a pair of some crazy company, like I think they were soccer cleat kind of shoes. I didn't realize that, but I brought them home, and then I eventually, once I started playing soccer as I got older, I realized that I bought soccer cleats in Israel that I thought were regular shoes.
They actually have spikes
I
in
think
the
they were
bottom.
called Diadora or something. Is the company?
Did they actually have spikes
can't
in the
believe I just
bottom? Were you
pulled that
walking
up.
around with cleats on?
Diadora. Hold on, let me pull this up. And then we gotta show people your back.
I want to go take people and check out the deck.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna get.
Diadora is a clothing company. It's actually an Italian clothing company, but I don't think we've ever had it. I don't see it around here.
Nice.
So it was Diadora, like soccer cleats, but I thought they were just like cool looking shoes. They were soccer cleats.
I remember those.
Yeah.
I remember those. What color were they?
Green and brown.
Oh, I
and
100% remember those shoes. James used to wear crazy colored shoes on stage. Maybe we'll get him to do it again.
All
right, but before
Nico's
we
saying
end,
hey.
Oh, hey,
Good
Nico.
to see you, Nico. Thanks for being here. I'm gonna hook John up. We're gonna check out his work on his back deck.
I'm gonna leave so the feedback isn't too bad.
We hope that this week was fun for you guys.
Oh, I had fun, James.
I hope you appreciated my research on
James
dead
did
malls.
research, man. That was nice.
We got lots to talk about for next week. I'm gonna add John in okay. We are gradually. Okay, wait. Connecting to audio. I didn't even let you in. Okay.
Oh, that's because I hacked it, man. I hacked it.
Okay, let me pull up so I can hear you. We are not on. We got to go on gallery view for all the viewers.
Our back stairway over this, but it's mint right now.
Okay, I can hear you.
Okay, so I've been working on. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Working on the deck, and oh, who's there? Alex is here. Hi, Alex. Hey. All right. and the dogs. Hello, dogs.
See, I think we
How are
could
you,
go
dogs?
for a walking stream, John. I've talked about this.
Yes, we could. Wait, a walking stream?
People can. Wait, did we just freeze?
Yeah. Building.
Oh my gosh. We're freezing.
Hey, I'm back. Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you.
Good? Okay, I turned off the Wi-Fi. Okay, so this is the back of the house. We did the we repainted the back vinyl. It was all white and stuff before, so we kind of went with the heritage green because it is an old brick home. And then this is the deck that I've been working on. I've rebuilt the steps, and I'm also doing sort of a facade over here, sort of in a more modern horizontal panel. And it's been a lot of fun. It's quite a process because I'm trying to salvage a lot of the old deck. So the deck that was here before is really rotten. All these stringers here that support the treads of the steps were pretty rotten. And so I did a few things underneath the new stairs that I put in order to brace up the steps. So I had to glue a bunch of these right here on the triangle. The stringer would split, and then I'd have to glue it back on with carpenter's glue and then punch a dowel in to make sure that they were strong enough to walk up and down them. So I got that fixed. But part of demolishing the deck really, or the old stairs, really made it difficult. So that's for sure. Been a bit of a ride, but I'm
show the truck, John.
Oh yeah, we got the truck out for the summer too. James and we got this truck performing in Kentucky. We actually bought it in Evansville, Indiana, when we were teenagers, and we still have it to this day. It's an old Cheyenne 10 Super. It's been in the Champion music video for anybody who saw that.
Show the teenage vanity plates.
Oh yeah. You got to see. So probably wouldn't do this now, but they're still on it. Oh yeah.
Abrams from back when
right
the Abrams brothers days.
Yeah. So this has been kind of a process for me. I've just been learning as I go. But thankfully, some of the skills from guitar building have been really helpful. And then this is all really old decking. That's just all these boards are loose and coming up. And the old concrete, I'm gonna have to re-pour some concrete and then put the new boards down on properly fitted joists, because the old the old joists, which are basically the strips of wood that support the deck that were on here before, were completely rotten. So I'm kind of redesign a whole new draining system to be able to get all out of the water in, out of the deck and off the deck from underneath it, so it doesn't rot from here on out.
Sign him up, HGTV.
Yeah, look at this.
We got the new star of the hit television HGTV show,
Right.
John Abrams builds.
We're like, you and I, James, we can be like the discount Property Brothers, like the, you know,
Yes.
the diet Property Brothers, like not nearly as good, but like kind of, yeah, like the off-brand Property Brothers.
We're like how Property Brothers, but half their size. Those guys are massive.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
like 6
Yeah, those
foot.
guys are like really well built. Okay, I'm coming back in. I'm back in the...
Oh no! Shut it off.
I've left meeting. I've left it.
Jeepers, only John would do that. All right, let's sit here and let's do a send off.
All right. Thank you so
See
much,
you
everybody.
guys. Thank you so much for. I gotta take this out because that again is doing
Clooney's
echoing. We got
coming in to
Clooney
say
in here.
goodbye.
We got episode 7, episode 8's next week. Basically, this whole episode was talking about what we're gonna do next week. But,
No, it wasn't. We had the deep dive.
lots of
into
research, updates, and we are going to have new streaming software soon. Again, check out the audio version if you can't jump in with us on Monday evenings. And you have anything else to add, John?
No, you said it all, James. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, guys.
Episode
We're so
7.
glad that this worked because it was a gamble. I'll tell you, it was a gamble.
You're calm now.
See you
Oh,
next
you've been
week.
drinking your energy drink.
See you next week.